Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Please mark your attendance. I hope the slides are visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we commenced with the second unit, which is about Python fundamentals or basics, you can say. We discussed a few features related to Python programming language. We discussed that Python is an interpreted language, so it takes up line by line or statement by statement in the program and then converts it, translates it, and executes it. Okay. So this is similar to your Perl or PHP or few other interpreted languages. Then we discussed that Python is interactive, wherein the programming language provides features using which the programmer or the user can interact with the programs. It is object oriented in the sense everything is in the form of objects. So basically, the objects encapsulate the data and the functions associated with it. So all the advantages, all the features that you have with object-oriented programming languages are applicable here as well. Then it's a kind of a beginner's language. It is easy to learn. It is easy to understand. It is easy to write. So any beginner, a naive person can start his journey of programming of learning a programming language by using Python. So not only it can be used by beginners, but it can also be used by the advanced or the expert programmers uh, for a wide variety of applications ranging from simple text processing or internet programming, mobile for the mobile apps or the games. So a wide variety of applications can be coded by using Python programming language. Then talking about the history of Python, it it all started in Netherlands, and the founder was Guido van Rossum. In fact, the implementation of Python started in the year 1989. It has got its name from a famous TV series in Netherlands, Monty Python's Flying Circus. Since beginning, it is an open source programming language, so that the code that is there, it is easily available, freely available, and then it can be disseminated. It can be shared with others, so that it is possible for them also to refer it, make changes to it. Okay, so that all that is perfectly allowed with Python programming language. So those are the advantages that you get with open source. Then talking more about Python features, in fact, the language is easy to learn since it has a few keywords. It has a simple structure and a clearly defined syntax. The words are simple. The keywords that are there, they are simple yet they are very powerful in nature. A lot of things can be done just by invoking those keywords. It is easy to read as well, um, since it is more in like English like words, so it is easy to read, easy to understand. So once that happens, it becomes easy to maintain as well. So the code that is written using Python programming language, it is easy to debug and fix the errors, and if any changes have to be made, then that can be done easily. So all the kinds of maintenances like corrective maintenance and then preventive maintenance and then the upgradation can be done easily. Corrective in the sense that if there is some error or there is some security bug, then that can be rectified very easily. Then uh, then the preventive means in anticipation of something that would be required in the future. Maybe the code or the program needs to be changed, so that is nothing but the preventive maintenance part of it. And the enhancement of the upgradation is adding new features as per the user's requirements or based on the requirements of the environment. So the bottom line is that Python programs are easy to maintain. it it has a broad standard library, well established, well documented library which has numerous functions in it, defined functions in it, which can be used across a number of platforms. You name the platform, there Python can be used. It supports interactive mode. So interactive mode is that the user or the programmer can communicate with the programs that have been written. So the features that are required for displaying messages, taking input, all that is existing in the programming language. And it also aids in debugging the code to find out if there are any errors in it. Then it is portable, that is, it can be ported from one environment, from one platform, from one hardware to another hardware. Okay, and that can be done hassle free. Not only that, it is extendable. Being open source has its own advantages, that is the Python program interpreter itself. Few modifications can be done to it, so that the programming environment is customized as per the programmer's needs. So low level modules can be added to the interpreter. It also supports it provides interfaces to a wide variety of commercial databases. So each and every application can use its own required database. So Python programs can be written for it, which can be integrated with those databases. It has a wide support for graphical user interface programming. It provides buttons, text boxes, etc. So there are system calls, there are libraries which will help you do that. And um, the GUI programming that is possible with Python programming language, it is across multiple platforms or multiple operating systems like Windows, Unix, Macintosh, etc. Not only that, Python is scalable. That is, if the number of users increase, or if the number of machines that are using that particular program increase, or for that matter, the database that is there, it is of very large size, it is in terms of big data. In that case also, Python programming language is quite scalable as compared to the other languages. So that is what is referred to as scalability, means able to cope up with the increasing demand. It may be in terms of a number of users, or in terms of the number of computers that are involved. Okay, or the number of requests that come to the server, and things like those. So scalability in all aspects can be handled by Python programming language. It can be used across a wide variety of platforms, in fact environments, like you go from desktop, then laptop. Not only that, mobile devices, the wearable devices also, there Python can be used. So in fact, the Python programs can be ported from one environment to another environment, and that can be done hassle free. Then we talked a bit about reserved words as well. uh, in fact, you can also call them as keywords for the programming language. Usually these are in lowercase. There's and keyword, which is used to check whether both the conditions are true, and then we can proceed. Then there is exit condition, which has parenthesis. Sorry, there is not it's not an exit condition, rather it's an exit keyword or exit function, you can say. Yeah, and the parentheses that are there in it, to in that parenthesis we can specify the statements that need to be executed. So exec function is a kind of a function which will help you execute the set of statements that are written within those parentheses. Then not is used to reverse the value that may be written by a particular condition. So if you want the reverse of it, then you can make use of the not operator or not keyword. Then assert is used to kind of raise an exception. So um, whenever something occurs, whenever a particular condition occurs, now syntactically the program might be correct, but then logically speaking, it might be an error. So that kind of an error, logical error, is called a kind of an exception. So when such an exception occurs, you can raise a message, you can display a message for the user, for the programmer, by using this assert keyword. Okay, now there are a lot of related keywords here with respect to exception handling. First and foremost, you need to understand that exception is something, it is a kind of an error. But if you take a look at the program, you'll not realize that that's an error. It's a kind of a logical error. It's not a syntax error. Okay. So that would be reported by using specific statements that you can write in the code. So at assert is one such statement which will raise that error so that the programmer or the user understands this kind of exception is occurring. Now, along with assert, there are other keywords like try and except. So basically, the statements that are there under the try keyword, those would be executed, and if an exception occurs, that is some kind of a logical error occurs in that particular set of statements, then it would go to the except keyword. The statements under the except keyword would be executed. Okay, so that is the purpose of try and then followed by except keyword. Now, along with that, you can also make use of a keyword finally, and this is the third part or the third section after try and except, you can say. So in that finally, whatever statements are specified, so whether an exception occurs or not, finally the set of statements that are there under this finally keyword need to be executed. That is what it implies. Then there is or operator, which can be used along with the conditions. Along with the conditions, if either of the conditions is true, then we can proceed. Then there's a break keyword, which is used to break a loop. For is used for for the for loop, that is repetition of the set of statements. Okay, just like you have the for keyword in case of C programming language. Then there's a keyword which is called as pass. So pass is basically kind of a, you can say it's a pseudo code, or it is required when the programmer has nothing to be written. Say there is if else, and if the condition is true, then there are no statements as such to be written. Okay, under the after the condition is true. So in that case, you can mention the keyword or reserved word pass. Okay, so it's kind of a filler, or you can say it's a placeholder, so that the interpreter will not raise an error saying that there are no statements under if. All right, so in order to get rid of that error, you can make use of this pass keyword. Then there's a class keyword, which is used for defining a class. Objects can be created based on this class template. Just just for the reason that Python programming language is an object oriented programming language. Okay, so there has to be a provision for creating classes, defining the classes, and then instantiating the objects that are derived from those classes. Then the from keyword is used basically, it is used along with the import statement. So say from a particular library import the different functions, so that can be specified by using this from keyword. Okay, say from math library import star, which implies that whatever functions are there under the math library, those need to be considered, or those can be used here, those need to be imported. Then the print statement is used to display something on the screen. Continue, it is used with the loops again. So continue is basically, it will help you go back to the beginning of the loop. Okay, so that the loop continues from there. Whereas break was used to break the loop, continue is used to go back to the starting statement of the loop. Then there's a keyword which is called as global. So can you tell me what exactly is the meaning of this global keyword?
Is used to declare the global variable.
Okay, that's perfect. So in case you want to make use of a global variable in a function, so for a function, whatever variables are there, those are local variables. But then if you want to make use of a global variable, then you need to specify that you're using a global variable that has been defined outside the function and that is being used within the function. So that particular variable needs to precede with the global keyword, what implies to the interpreter that this particular variable that is there, it is a global variable that is being used within the scope of a defined function. That is what it means. Then raise is also used to raise, just like assert, it is used to raise an exception, it is used to raise an error, so that the programmer is aware that a particular error or exception is occurring. Then there is def keyword, which you have already used while defining a function. Then there's if, which is used for checking the conditions. If condition is true, then statements are executed. Then there is a return statement, which is used to return a value. So whenever a function is executed, if a value is to be returned to the calling function, then you can make use of this return statement. Then there's a keyword which is called as del, which is used to delete a object. So any, for that matter, any object that has been created in the program can be deleted by using this del keyword. Then import, as we discussed, it is used to import a library so that the functions under it um, can be used. Then there's try, which is used for exception handling. So try, except, and finally these are used for exception handling purposes. Then the if part, the counterpart of if is elif, which is nothing but, if you want to specify another condition under the same if statement, you can make use of elif and specify that condition so that a different set of statements can be executed for elif. Then there is in is a keyword which is used to check whether a particular value is within a range, whether it is in a range, given range. Okay, so it can be used to check the membership of a particular value. Then the while is another loop that you have in Python programming language. It's a looping construct which will help you uh, write loops or perform iterations. Then there's if, and then there is else part. So there are a set of statements which can be executed under the else part. Then is. So can you tell me what exactly is the is keyword used for? Is, yeah. If you have come across this keyword is, so is keyword is kind of a keyword, you can say, which is used to compare two objects. That is x is y. So it is used to check whether x and y are same. Okay, it is used to check whether the two objects are identical. So that is the purpose of the is keyword. X is y, or in other words, x equal to y. So that kind of a thing, that kind of a checking can be done by using this is keyword. Then there is with keyword. So at times with keyword can be used. Now it is especially used when we write programs for file handling. That is, whenever a file is to be opened, at that time the with keyword can be used along with it, so that after the file has been used, you need not explicitly specify the close statement. The with statement, what it does is, as long as the file is in use, it would be kept in the main memory. As and when the file is not required, the with statement itself will take care of, so that that resource that is there, it does not occupy the main memory. That is, the closure of that particular file will be done by using this with statement only. So with is a keyword or reserved word which is used to perform the resource management in a much smoother, in a much cleaner way. The file, when it is required, it would be opened, it would be accessed and opened, and once the work is done, it would be closed automatically without the programmer explicitly specifying the close keyword or the close reserved word. Then the except keyword is used uh, along with try. Then there's one more reserved word which is called as lambda. So lambda is basically does anyone know why this keyword or this reserved word lambda is
So it
used?
is a function, single line function.
It is that's perfect. It is used for defining single line functions. Now, in the case of lambda, when you use this keyword, you need not give a name since it's just a single expression. It is not like the other functions in which there might be a number of expressions. In the case of lambda, when we are working with single line expressions, at that time we can make use of this keyword so that you don't have to give a name to that particular function. The expression can just be invoked. Since it follows this lambda keyword, it can just be invoked. So it's a kind of an anonymous function that you can create in Python programming language. Now, the other advantage that you have by using this lambda is you don't have to, the programmer need not explicitly specify a return. By default, the expression that is there, that is written after this lambda keyword, it returns a value. Okay, so like the user defined functions, you don't have to specify the return statement in the case of the lambda function or the when you use the lambda keyword. Then there's one more keyword which is called as yield. Now this has something to do with return. So can you tell me how exactly return works when you write user defined functions? So how does return work? Can you tell me?
So it returns some output of the function where we can use it as per our need.
Then what happens? Then what happens after the return?
We call that specific function, sir.
So once you have a return statement in a called function, so some value is written and the control goes back to the calling function, isn't it? There's no way of coming back to the called function. But instead of using return, if you use the keyword or the reserved word yield, what it does is it allows the control to go back to the calling function. That is, with yield it will return a value. It is how it works is it returns a value to the calling function, and then when the same function is being called again, it would resume the execution from the statement after the yield keyword. Okay, so what happens in the case of return statement is the control goes you return a value from the called function to the caller function. Okay, after that the control goes back to the caller function itself and it does not come back to the called function. But when you use yield, what happens is you can return a value from the called function. The control goes to the calling function, and when the calling function invokes the called function again, the 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 execution resumes from whatever statement is there after the yield keyword. Okay, so basically yield keyword is used to resume execution of a called function from where it left, but that is not possible with the case of a return statement. So that is the difference between yield and return. Yield will allow you to resume the execution of the called function, whereas return will not allow you to execute uh, e- uh, resume the execution from where it left. Rather, the called function would have to be executed all over again, right from the first statement that is there in the called function. Whereas yield will help you resume execution of the called function. So this is a bit of a brief of about a few of the keywords that you have in Python programming language. But then Python is not just about these keywords. There are a lot of other keywords as well for you to explore. So so see, we've just discussed a few keywords and reserve words. So you now have an idea as to what is the power or what are the features that you have in this particular programming language. If you explore the entire vocabulary that is there for the language, you'll get to know a lot of new things, okay, which you can use while writing the program using the language. So that is the necessity of understanding or learning a language in a thorough manner. so that you understand the A to Z of the vocabulary involved with that particular programming language, so that that can be used while writing the programs. So when we talk of any programming language, the programming language has two fundamental entities. There are the variables and then there are functions. Okay, so basically these functions would operate on the values of the variables, and then they would generate new values, which would be the output state. So talking about variables first, so basically variables would decide the state of the program. Okay, so that is what is meant as procedural programming model, wherein the variables would decide the state of the program. So what exactly are variables? Variables are nothing but, you can say, they're kind of names using which the particular value can be accessed. So that is what the programmer understands. But in the background, what happens is, whenever a variable is being used, some memory space is being reserved to hold the values. Okay, so when we talk of variable, it has a memory location associated with it. Then there is a value that is stored at that particular memory location. All right, and then each and every variable has a type associated with it, like what kind of value would be stored for that particular variable. That is also another aspect that you can associate with variables. So based on the value that has been assigned to the variable, in the case of Python, the Python interpreter allocates that much amount of memory. It reserves that much space for that particular variables. Now variables can either be either hold the values of integers, decimals, or characters. So depending on that, the memory space would be reserved for that variable. Now in the case of Python programming language, you don't have to explicitly specify the data type. Whatever value, in fact the declaration need not be explicitly specified. So as and when the value is being assigned to the variable, at that time the memory space would be reserved by the interpreter for that particular variable. Okay, so the declaration kind of it happens automatically in the background whenever a value is being assigned to a variable. By using a equal to sign, a value can be assigned to a variable. So this is an example where an integer is being assigned 100, counter equal to 100, then miles equal to 1000. There's a decimal point, there's a decimal involved, so it's a floating point number. And then you can also assign a string, which can be specified either in single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes as well. So accordingly, the space would be reserved for counter, then for miles, and then for name. So can anyone tell me what exactly is the space reserved? So whenever you say counter, okay, it is assigned, sorry, whenever you use the variable counter, it is assigned the value 100. So at that time, so for that matter, if there is any integer value that has been that is being assigned to a variable, what is the space that would be reserved?
Sir, is it 2 bits for integer?
The 4 bit.
Okay, okay. What about others?
Say 2 bits.
So I believe all of you are using Python version 3, right? 3 version 3 and onwards. So now with this Python version 3 onwards, what has happened is, whatever space is required for the integer, and as long as there is memory space available, that can be assigned to a variable. So what it means is that this number can be very, very, very large. So the so the programming language is now capable of holding, of having any values, any range of values in these variables. Okay, so that is the power of this particular programming language. You have a very large number, no issues with it. The programmer need not worry. The interpreter will take care. As long as there is free memory available in the system, that would be used for allocation purposes. So in the previous versions, you had that concept of 2 bytes and all that 4 bytes kind of thing. But then with Python version 3 onwards, this there is no restriction on the number that can be assigned, or the value that can be assigned to a particular variable. So that is the beauty of it. That is the power of it. Now, multiple assignment of values is also possible using these kind of statements, like a equal to b equal to c equal to 1. So the value 1 is being assigned to all these variables. Not only that, multiple assignments, but different values could be assigned to the variables. Like the next statement, what it implies, what it means is that the variable a is assigned the value 1, b is assigned the value 2, and c is assigned the string John. Okay, so multiple assignment is possible in the case of Python programming language. Now, whenever we talk of Python, there are 5 standard data types which are commonly used. These are the basic or the fundamental ones. That is number, string, list, tuple, and dictionary. In fact, this is what we'll be studying subsequently. So, talking about numbers, so basically, it is a data type which is used for storing the numeric values. Now, Uh, so when we talk of numbers or strings, these are immutable data types. What it means is that whenever, so initially, say for example, you've created, in fact, all these variables that we are talking about, these are nothing but these are objects. So there's variable 1, which is being assigned the value 1, variable 2, which is being assigned the value 10. So whenever this happens, there is a new object that is being created, which is referred to as, which has an identity as or identifier as variable 1. There's another variable which is identifier as variable 2. So basically these objects would be accessed by using these names. Now these objects that have been created, they are immutable in nature. That is, the value that has been assigned to it cannot be changed. Okay, now suppose you assign a new value, variable 1 is equal to 5. So in that case, what happens in the background is a new memory space would be allocated to it, and a new object for it would be created. Okay, which would now be referred to by the name variable 1. So the previous access to variable 1 which had the value 1, that would be lost, and it can no longer be accessed. Okay, so what it means is that these data types that we are talking about, numbers, strings, these are immutable data types, uh, which means that the value for it cannot be changed. If it is changed, if a new value is being assigned, then a newly an object would be created for it, or there would be a new allocation for it. That is what it means. And this is the concept of immutability, wherein the objects that are there, those cannot be changed. The values that are there, those cannot be changed. So in the case of numbers, what happens in the case of numeric values, what happens is a new object would be created, and to that a new value would be assigned. Now, when we talk of numerical types in Python, you can generally have 3 types. That is int. Now, previously there used to be int and there used to be a long int, but then currently for Python version 3 onwards, it is just int, because uh, the int data type is capable of storing any large number. Then you have float, wherein a decimal value is also there. That is, it comprises of real values. Then you can also deal with complex numbers, which has a real part and an imaginary part associated with it. So these are the possible 3 possible numeric types, data types, that you can have in the case of Python programming language. So can you tell me, So we just discussed that the numeric values that are there, those are immutable. Whenever a new value has to be assigned, a new object needs has to be created. Now, can you guess what exactly are the advantages and disadvantages of this? Any idea? It is
Abhishek,
not
can you
that it
please
is.
repeat the question?
So what I'm saying is, a variable has been assigned a numeric value, okay, or an integer value for that matter. Say variable one equal to one. Now later, what you do is you assign a new value to variable one. Variable one is equal to 5 now. So what happens in the background? Can you tell me? As per our discussion.
The first variable would be deleted, and that the same variable would be allocated to new memory location as
Huh.
by value 5.
So in the background, what is happening? A new object would be created. Okay, and the access to the previous object would be lost. Now later when you'll be studying the concept of multi-threading, so this kind of a methodology or this kind of modus operandi in the background would help when we have multi-threading in a particular programming language, that is multiple parts of the same program executing simultaneously, so making the objects or the variables immutable. uh, it aids or it helps in making the programs thread safe. Okay, that is at a particular point of time, that is thread 1. So what do you understand by thread? Thread is nothing but a part of the program. In a particular program you can have multiple parts which can be executed simultaneously. So this is the concept of multi-threading. Okay, these different parts, each and every part is called as a thread. Each of these threads can be executed simultaneously, and that is known as multi-threading. So when these threads are executing simultaneously, they are going to interfere with each other. Okay, so when they are going to interfere with each other, maybe they are accessing the same data object, and when they are accessing the same data object, it might happen that one of the threads will change the value of that particular data object or that particular variable. So when that is going to happen, the other threads which are accessing the same variable, they should get the latest value. Okay, and that latest value is accessed by using the variable name. So in this case, whenever a modification to the value takes place, a new object would be created, and then that new object would be accessed by the other thread as well. So in simple terms, as of now, you need to understand that when these immutable data types are being used, at that time it is just to ensure that the program works um, thread free. That is, it works thread failure free. That means one thread would not be interfering with the other thread in that case. So that is the advantage that you have with it. But then the flip side is that every time the value is changed, a new object would have to be created, which would improve the burden or overhead on the system or the interpreter that is working behind the scenes. So in that case, a lot of time and space would also be wasted. So there are pros and cons, but then Python has adopted this methodology. So that is why we have to use it this way only. Okay, but then it does not have make any difference to the end user or the programmer, because everything is happening in the background. The programmer need not worry about it. So this is the concept of immutability. Now let us talk a bit about the next data type, that is the strings. Now strings are widely used in Python programming language. So it is it is specified in quotes. It might be specified in single quote or double quotes, or if there are multiple line strings, then triple quotes can also be used. So when we talk about strings, strings are nothing but it's a combination of characters. You can either have an individual letter or symbol, or you can have a combination. Then strings usually have a length associated with it, which defines the number of characters that it contains. Then the string that is there, it is organized in a kind of a sequence, wherein each and every character that is there in the string, it has a associated numbered position with it. Using that number, the particular character can be accessed in the string. So in fact, this is what we'll be studying related to string, concatenation, indexing, slicing, and then manipulation of the string using different methods, conversion from uppercase to lowercase and vice versa, then removing the white spaces from the string, or maybe removing the characters at the beginning and at the end of the string, and finding out what substring the actual string begins or ends with. Not only that, we would also be working on finding a string within a given string. So if you take a deeper look at the strings, the string that has been used by the programmer, it would be stored in such a form where each and every character that is there, it can be accessed by a numbered position, or what is also called as an index. The starting index would be 0. Okay, so whenever a particular numbered position is to be accessed, it has to be specified in square brackets, which is nothing but the index. The index starts from 0. Not only that, the index value can also be computed by writing expressions. Say for example, you have made use of of a string, and then that string is being assigned to this variable fruit. Now if you specify the index 1 within square bracket, so it's referring to the second character that is there in the string. Now also an expression can be given in place of the index, that is, it can be specified within the square brackets, which can compute the index. Like in this case, n minus 1, n being 3, so this turns out to be 2, and the character which is placed at the numbered position 2 would be accessed. You can also find out the length of the string by using a built-in function which is called as length, which will provide you the length of the string that has been used, that has been assigned to the variable. Then there's a concept of slicing, wherein you make use of a colon operator, and this starting number would specify the starting index, and the second number that is there after the colon, it indicates that it is that you need to traverse up to this index, but not the number that has been specified. That is up to, but not including the second number. That is what it means. Okay, so second number that has been specified, it is one beyond the slice under consideration. So this colon basically is nothing but the slice operator. The first part of what precedes the colon is the starting index, and what succeeds the colon is the index till where we want to access the string or access the characters. If the second number is beyond the end of the string, then the slice operator, it kind of ends at the end of the string. The spaces also that are there in the assigned string, that would take up a numbered position as well. So these are the examples. What you see on the right hand side are the illustrations or examples related to slice operator. You can also perform a string concatenation by using this plus operator. Okay, you can have multiple plus operator to perform multiple concatenations, like you can see on the right hand side. You can also specify a space here, which is concatenated with this given actual string, or plus a variable which is holding that string. Then string comparison can be carried out in this manner. That is, these operators, logical operators, can be used that is equal to sign, and then less than, greater than can also be used. Now can you tell me what exactly is the output of this code? What would be the output of this code?
Sir, else part will be executed. All right, bananas.
Is it? Anyone else? Maybe you can type the code as well. It will not take much time.
Sir, less than part will be executed
Less than part would be executed. Why is it so?
because, sir, BANAN is assigned to the variable word and it is less than BANAN. So that's all.
Okay, less than in the sense?
Uh, your if word is less than banana, that part will be executed.
Okay, so what does it check behind the
Number
scenes?
of
What does it
characters,
do? Huh?
Characters
Sorry?
in the
number
string.
of characters in that string.
Not exactly. It goes character by character. That's fine. But then what it does is, yeah, any one of you? Any
So
one
I
of
guess
you
it
has an.
checks the ASCII code of that character.
So you're partially correct. You talked about ASCII code, but then programming languages like Java and Python, they make use of Unicode. Okay. Now, like you know about ASCII codes, the characters that you have for C programming language that would be stored in the ASCII form. All right, but in the but the characters that you have for Python programming language or Java programming language, they would be stored in a different kind of code or different kind of format, which is called as Unicode. Okay, the advantage of having Unicode is that it includes a huge variety of characters as compared to the ASCII code. So the vocabulary or the possible characters that you have for Unicode is very large as compared to the ASCII code. That is why Java and Python programming languages, they are making use of this Unicode. Now what happens when you carry out such a comparison, that is word is less than the string, that is the banana in this case, it would do character by character comparison. Okay, like word in this case would be BANAN. So B would be checked against the B that is there on the right hand side. A would be checked against the A that is there on the right hand side. But when the checking is being done, it is going to check the Unicode. Like you have ASCII values for each and every character. Likewise, there is a Unicode value for each and every character. So if the word includes a string which has a Unicode which is less than and than the one that is there on the right hand side, then this condition would be true, and then it would execute the less than part of it. Otherwise it would execute the elif or else part of it. Okay, so what is happening is the string that is there on the left hand side would be compared with the string that is there on the right hand side. A character by character comparison would be carried out. The Unicode of the character of the first character in the left side string would be compared with the Unicode of the first character that is there on the right hand side. Then it continues with the next character till it reaches a point where uh, where whatever is there on the left hand side is less than or it is greater than the one that is there on the right hand side. At that time the condition returns false, and then it goes to the elif part. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is uh, a character by character comparison would be carried out. The unicodes of these individual characters would be checked, and they would be compared whether they are greater than, whether they are less than, or whether they are equal to. And based on that, the corresponding condition would be true, and the statements under it would be executed. Okay, so in short, what you need to understand is that comparison of characters would be carried out based on the unicodes. All right, so let us stop here. If you have any queries, you can ask.
Excuse me, sir.
Hmm.
Yesterday on Canvas platform, it